Welcome to the Crush Your Sugar Cravings Summit. I'm Michelle Jolly with Healthy Horizons Coaching. Today we'll be interviewing Bitten Jonsson. Bitten has been a registered nurse since 1973 and an addiction specialist, sugar IDDS certified, is a forerunner in the field in Sweden. She is an international lecturer and has been on TV and radio numerous times. Bitten was trained in the US and has developed a special treatment method involving integrated functional medicine and orthomolecular medicine, together with American addiction medicine, support group development, and traditional medicine. Bitten Jonsson has written 3 books on sugar addiction. The Sugar Bomb in Your Brain, her first book, published in 2004, revised in 2010 and 2016, and The Sugar Free Cookbook, published in 2006 and updated in 2018. She has also further developed Sugar, the evaluation instrument for sugar and food addiction. Bitten was a member of the National Association of Addiction Treatment Providers and NADAC in the US for many years, and is now on the board of directors for the Food Addiction Institute in the US since 2010. She has been certifying and training the next generation of sugar addiction counselors since 2012. Welcome, Bitten.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That always sounds like, well, have I done all that? When did that happen?
Yeah.
When you put it together like that, you know.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
History of, all the knowledge you gained from that. So let's just jump in and they gave us a bit of a background on you and what you've done, but I like to start out just having people tell us all about how you got to this place in your life and how you got into wellness and sugar addiction and why it's important to you.
Well, it's been my passion for many, many years, but it started with me being active alcoholic when I was working as a nurse. I was hiding it, and fortunately my ex-husband saw that and forced me into treatment, and I will be forever grateful for that, because I was very much ashamed, thinking that being an alcoholic was so bad. But what I learned about addiction medicine in my treatment in the fall of 1985 changed my life and my career forever. That's when I felt I wanted to leave nursing and only work with addiction, because the powerful message they gave me made me stand straight and understand I had a brain illness and that recovery is very possible. And they gave me the tools, and it made me incredibly happy, much more happy than working as a nurse, where I felt it was more like one ill, one pill all the time, and nobody saw the holistic person with, as you say, health and wellness. I really like your site, by the way. And so anyway, you're doing a great thing. So I started to work, first I took care of my own recovery, which they gave me the advice. And then I started to learn about addiction medicine and started to work with that. In the beginning, I worked with alcoholics, drug addicts, and pill addicts. But then when I've been sober for 7 years, I was listening to a lecture about relapse prevention. And the author, Terence Gorski, said that, if you keep drinking a lot of coffee, smoking, being unhealthy, no physical exercise, not taking care of your health in a broader perspective, you probably will relapse into alcohol and drugs. And that shocked me. And I thought, no, I don't want to do that, I wanted to even enhance my recovery. So of course I quit smoking and quit coffee. But I thought, well, I don't eat junk food, which to me was only McDonald's. I didn't think about chocolate and cookies and that type. That's not junk food, right? But anyway, so as a nurse, I was not trained in nutrition. Can you imagine? Well, still there are not a lot about that in the medical field. So I started to learn more about that. But the thing was that I gained a lot of weight when I quit smoking and, quit coffee, because of course I replaced the cigarettes and the coffee with chocolate. Which is very common. But that wasn't the worst thing wasn't the weight. But the thing was that I was so extremely tired all the time, and I had a lot of energy in short bursts, and then I lost all the energy. I was exhausted. I almost fell asleep behind the wheel of my car twice, even though I slept like crazy. So I started to learn about the brain. I knew something had to be connected there. So I started to learn about the brain, and then I was working with this American woman, and I said to her, how come I could quit alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine, but I can't quit chocolate? And she said to me at that time, we didn't talk sugar. This was 1992. And she said, well, maybe you're a food addict. And I said, what? Food addiction? What's that?
Yeah.
I was shocked. I never heard the word before.
Yeah.
I started looking into it. And finally, in the fall of 93, I was over in Chicago with some of the founders of working with food addiction in the same way they work with alcoholics and drug addicts, to take away the drug and start healing and repairing and go into recovery.
Yeah.
And I was shocked that it even existed.
Yeah.
So I came home, and probably I looked very healthy or healthier because people started asking me, what have you done? What have you done? And I said, well, I'm a food addict.
Yeah.
What? Yesterday you were an alcoholic. And I said, well, it's the same thing, I said. And you can imagine people here was just, they never heard of it. So they was just floored. They thought I was joking.
Yeah.
One colleague, a nurse, said to me, well, is that a modern in thing to say in the US? She had no concept of it.
Right.
But anyway, what happened was that a lot of people started to call me and mail me and come and tell me, I've always felt like a foodaholic. They call themselves that. And certain things when I start eating, I can't stop. And could I have the problem? So I thought, well, we need to do a lot of teaching.
Yeah.
So I started to do groups. My first group was in 94, and I started more professional treatment in 1995. And well, that's the end of the story, sort of, but that's how it started. And I must say that every time I've been dealing with thousands of clients and all that, so it was so bad. My caseload was so big in the beginning, well, somewhere around 2010, that I felt that I'm going to croak if I don't get help. So, and I was alone working with this method in Sweden. So I thought, I need to start teaching people to become my colleagues.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to teach other counselors in 2012, and that thing has expanded. And in the fall of last year, I started with my first international group. And that's wonderful. It's so exciting. People from all over the world, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Chile, US, England. So, and the group is absolutely amazing. They are amazing. So that's, sort of how it was. And I was at one point trying to do a treatment center, but since nobody in Sweden understood the concept, that sugar addiction is real, we couldn't keep doing it.
Yeah.
We had a lot of clients, but we never got any funding. That was the problem. So anyway, I kept doing intensives, a 4-day intensive. First it was a week, but people can't afford it and can't take time off. So I do a 4-day intensive now. But now I do them with clients to teach professionals to do them in all different countries all over.
Yeah.
And to me, food addiction or sugar addiction is an addiction as any other addiction. Alcohol, drugs, pills, what have you. It works exactly the same. And that's what people finally understand. A lot of people don't understand. They try moderation therapy. That is not working. So my passion is that somebody comes to me, they're totally drained of energy. I can see that they are as tired as I was. At that point when I was binging on chocolate and trying to survive and all that. And they are desperate. They've tried everything you can imagine, from even to surgery. I mean, all the diets you've heard of, pills, powders, exercise, what have you, and nothing has worked. And they get the knowledge about the brain, the different parts of the brain and how addiction develops. how it evolves in the brain, and why you do what you do. They do understand, and that is so shame relieving. It's a very power surge in a person to understand, oh, I'm not lazy, I don't have a bad character, I'm not a lousy person, I have an illness. And what the solution is, that you have to go zero tolerance. Moderation therapy is never going to work on a sugar addict. So they get the tools to understand that, and then they start the process. And to see them a short while after with the light on in their eyes, happiness, starting to get energy, feeling alive, start to, do the best of their lives. I mean, that's almost as almost addictive to see that happen in people. To restore their health and their life in all aspects. I don't just mean weight, food, because once you get the energy back, you start doing everything, living the life you want to live. And it is so wonderful to see that. So that's why I kept doing it for years and years and years, and will keep doing it. And now it's wonderful because now I have a lot of colleagues all over the world that we work with this.
Wonderful.
So that's why.
Great. Good story. I've kind of heard that like reducing and removing sugar isn't really the same for everyone. So like a third of the people maybe are severely addicted. You kind of talk about that with your assessment and how people can kind of learn about that, but can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, everybody has a unique biochemistry. I mean, you and I don't look the same. We have, different fingerprints. Everybody has that. So we are different on the inside too. So our biochemistry is different. But when it comes to addiction medicine, you have to know that you can divide people in 3 groups. You have the social users, the ones that take one little piece of chocolate, no craving, no longing for more. They can stop easily. They are not maybe too keen on sweets. I mean, they like normal food, as just, they eat very moderate. They don't feel the craving and the surge and the urge for it. And most important with social users, they do not have negative consequences of their eating because they eat very good. That's a big group. And they are born like that, and they stay like that for the rest of their life. And then they really don't understand an addict like me that get obsessed with chocolate if I take a bite. And then you have group 2, they have a harmful use. And usually they eat because they're very stressed or unhappy, or because they want to celebrate. It's a lifestyle, a culture they live in. Because they don't have knowledge, they might never read, the ingredients in something they buy, or they don't think about that. You tell them something about food, this is very unhealthy, and they look at you and say, what? I didn't know that. What? Like that. And they do get consequences, but they're not addicted and obsessed. So that's very important. And they can have moderation therapy. They can learn to eat better, but they don't have to take away everything. And they need coping mechanism for stress, or go to therapy, or deal with some issues, or it can be all kinds of things they can do to improve their health. But they don't have to live like, an alcoholic. It's the same with alcohol. Some people drink a lot and they have a harmful use, but they're not alcoholics. And then you have the 3rd group, which is the one I work with. They are addicts. So they are obsessed with it, and they can quit too, but they can't stay quit. That's the difference. They keep falling back or picking up the drug. And when they take one bite, something explodes in their head and they start binging again. They have loss of control and they are very obsessed. So that's the difference. And the instrument I've developed from another instrument, which are used on alcohol, pill addiction and drug addiction, which is called sugar. that's the only way we have today to really know if you have a harmful use or addiction. Because people with social use, they never ask for help, you know.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem. So so that's what you do. That's what that instrument does for you. And also what it shows you is how severe your addiction is. And it also gives a lot of information about your health. So for us specialists to give an individualized, tailored treatment plan for you.
Yeah.
So that's why. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. And you kind of mentioned that some people don't realize what sugar is in. Like they know sugar's like in sweets and desserts and cookies and sugary drinks, but there's so much more. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, you know, we talk about sugar, flour, processed foods. And, you know, there's sugar in most. I used to joke and say, if you want to stay safe, eat only stuff that has one ingredient. In a piece of fresh fish, there's only fish.
Yeah.
In an egg, there's only egg. In butter, it is milk, you know, sort of. You understand what I mean? It doesn't have a list of ingredients. So many things today are, you know, have like a chemical list of very dangerous concoctions, and that together can cause addiction in you, and that you lose control and it hijacks your brain. So there's so many types of sugar. We wouldn't even have an hour, you and I, to talk about all the types of sugar. But anything that it says has sugar, or all the new chemical names of sugar, which is there to confuse you. You know, high fructose corn syrup, there's a lot of different names on that. So you need to be aware. So if you really want to be safe, you know, don't eat stuff that has a lot of added things in it. Stick to clean food.
Okay.
And then flour, many people don't, or starch, what a lot of people don't understand is that any carb, any carbohydrate, everything from nuts, seeds, grain, certain starchy vegetables will be sugar in your body when it breaks down. So if you would live only on potatoes, you get a high sugar load, or rice, you know, or any kind of flour. And also with flour, what we see, which is interesting, I talked to a lot of interesting colleagues that know a lot about nutrition about this. It also seems that our bodies have a hard time reading the molecular structure on flour. You know, sort of, it's like we are made to eat food, to chew. If you break it down, and, you know, people that live on powders, powdery drinks and smoothies, powders, I see that their health is very, very compromised. So there's something there. I've seen it so many times, and there's a lot of interesting information about grains too. You know, if you read Grain Brain by David Perlmutter, you might have read it. It's a good book. It scares you a little bit, thinking, uh-oh. And how does it affect my intestinal lining and my nutrition uptake? And there's a lot of interesting information. But my experience shows that somebody that eats only, let's say, ice cream and sugar, ice cream and chocolate, or, you know, that type of sweets, is not as physically sick, bodily wise, as somebody living on bread, pasta, and stuff like that. So bread addicts, flour addicts are sicker. They relapse easier and have a harder time to get back on the train. So it's more difficult to treat somebody with a real bread addiction. They have a much harder time letting go, because it's more obvious that ice cream is chocolate is not good for us. But we are so brainwashed with that bread is okay. Sandwiches, and it is, you know, flour in everything today. It's added to so many sauces and what have you. So it's hard. It's hard.
So people kind of getting into like the chronic illness and autoimmunity, where they can see it that way also.
Exactly.
Then you also
we talk a lot about that. Omega-6, omega-3 ratio and all that kind of stuff. Very interesting. And microbiome. We know a lot about that today, so we work a lot with that, and brain health, inflammation in the brain, which causes depression, and mostly, actually, what I would put like an umbrella over it and talk about loss of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people lose energy, or their energy is very intermittent. They have energy and then they lose energy, so they don't have stable energy in their body. That makes it hard for people. They feel very bad about that, because your life gets very unmanageable when that happens to you.
Then you get into the depression and everything. Yeah,
and you feel hopeless when you don't.
right.
I want to do this, I want to study, I want to do this, but I can't, because I never know if I have a day when I lose all my energy. I'm in bed, and I have pain in my body, and my stomach is rotten, and I'm sure you see a lot of that, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
So with the addiction work, you also kind of mentioned that the emotional component or the mental component,
of course,
things they're dealing with. Is it better to work on the food part first or the emotional part?
Well, addiction this is very important. Addiction is a physical brain illness, with physical, psychological, social, and spiritual consequences, severe. With the spiritual, an easy explanation for people is to say that, the meaning of life feels like they've lost it. They don't feel any meaning, or, nothing is fun. So it is absolutely of the most important part is to work on the food first. You have to take away the drug. You cannot heal your emotional, psychological problems unless if you keep taking the drug. So, it's like with an alcoholic or a heroin addict, you have to take the drug first. No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. And then you can start, you heal a lot by taking away the drugs and start eating the right food for a food addict. And then once you've healed and you're stable, which take, of course, different amount of time for different people, that's when you start working on the more emotional, behavioral, spiritual, social components. You can't take poison and think you're going to work on the other stuff. You take poison every day. It's impossible.
Yeah, true. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you totally abstaining from sugar.
Yes.
Kind of help people understand like what a typical day of meals might be, and how does that work for you?
Well, I usually eat 3 meals, and I have never been a breakfast eater, so I love to take bulletproof in the morning. Fat coffee, with coconut oil, ghee, MCT oil, egg yolk. That's what I have with strong coffee. So that's my caffeine dose for the day. So that's what I have in the morning. And then I eat lunch, and I usually eat, meat, fish, chicken, lamb, eggs, some kind of protein, plain protein, and usually some veggies. And also I eat plenty of fat to keep me, satisfied through the day. So that is avocado oil, olive oil, butter, ghee, coconut oil, MCT oil. Those are my fats. And of course, I eat fat pieces of meat. I mean, I don't stay away from that. I eat fat fish if I can get hold of good quality. So I eat that. And then dinner is exactly the same. And usually I have my lunch around 11 to 1, somewhere around there. And then I have dinner around 5 to 6 or something. I try to eat before 6. And then I don't eat between my meals. So that's the way I live. And my body likes that the best. I've tried several food plans since I started 93, believe me. This is the one that I think works best.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm sure the fat helps satisfy and you don't need to.
I think it's very healthy to be hungry.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like being hungry. When I was active in the sugar, I was never hungry and never satisfied. It was some kind of woozy in the
Yeah.
middle. I ate, but I felt bad, and then I was having cravings for certain things, and it was really crazy. It was not satisfied. So the better I eat, the more. Well, usually I don't think about food. It might sound crazy, but
Yeah.
my goal was to not be obsessed with food at all.
Right.
So I see myself as a car that when my gas tank is low, I need to go and fill gas, and that's it. And I don't think about gas stations between meals.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
food to me is fuel and medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good way to think of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm still kind of learning about the addiction part of sugar. Is it more like you talked about earlier that people are born with the addiction? Is it in our genes, or can people, like, if they eat too much sugar when they're younger, their parents gave them too much sugar, then they develop it? Or is it more of it's in your body kind of thing?
Well, when I was working with alcohol, drugs, and pill addiction, we always said that there was some, we talked about genetics, some components, some have a more sensitive, more high, more stronger genetic part, some had less, but it was also the environment and the exposure. There had to be a combination about these. But I think that the kind of processed food that is available today and has been for quite some years could create addiction. I think it could rebuild our reward system in the brain, because our brain, what I think people do not respect is the incredible effect that toxins, alcohol, drugs, junk food, processed food have on our brain. People are not aware of that. So we have our brain is very, very sensitive and needs a lot of good fuel, because I used to joke and say that we can't go to the building store to buy stuff to feed our brain. We have to eat. That's what your brain is made of, what you eat and what your intestines take up, the nutritional uptake. So the brain stomach connection is very important.
Yeah.
So I think that both of those I think that some people are born with a highly sensitive predispositioned brain for addiction. Others can get it from being exposed to sugar and flour very early and a lot. So I think both are true for today.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So somebody that's kind of really on the spectrum of like drinking a lot of sugary drinks during the day and carb and sugar filled meals and processed snacks, is it safe to go, like sometimes alcohol and smoking, you're just cold turkey going off? Or is it something that you want to slowly, so you're not detoxing or like having the reactions from detoxing so fast? Or
well, there are some drugs like benzodiazepines, that you need. Some drugs you need professional advice how to detox. Most people detox themselves now and then by saying, I'm going to have a white week, I'm going to quit alcohol for a week, or I'm not going to have any sugar for a month, or blah, blah, blah. So, but if you want to be healthy, you might want to talk to a professional and do a sugar, and then we see what kind of drugs are you on and so forth. Most people can quit cold turkey unless you're into heavy duty drugs. And I don't believe in the tapering. It just teases the system constantly. So what I see happens is that the craving is constantly on and you have to fight it all the time. So, it's like with a Band-Aid, if you cut yourself, are we going to rip it off slowly, or are we going to rip it off? I like to rip it off.
Yeah.
I see the best effect if people go cold turkey, but then it is important to understand you cannot focus on just what you take away. You have to truly focus on what you add. And then food. What kind of food are you going to eat? I mean breathing. it's incredible important to learn nose breathing because addicts overbreathe.
Oh.
So, you know, nose breathing and taping your mouth at night. So you use nose breathe at night, and then using a relaxator, this little gadget to train deep nose breathing. Because that slows down craving and increases metabolism. I mean, don't burning calories. I mean, also getting rid of waste products that your body makes during the day naturally. So food, sleep, food, breathe, sleeping. Sleep is extremely important. Okay. Then physical activity. Friends, social contact, you know, talking to somebody, like if you and I would have the same problem, we support each other. Well, hang in there one more day, just do it for today, and you know, make a new decision tomorrow, and you know, I'm here, call me if you have a craving. That type of thing. And then, you know, we work with also biochemical repair, you know, certain supplements that we know help, like glutamine powder, you know, magnesium, fish oil. You know, there are some supplements that supports the body in healing faster. So there's a lot of tools you can use to get through the cold turkey period, which is usually 3 weeks. For some people, it can be up to 3 months. So depending on how sick you were, and also how metabolically dysfunctional you were. You know, if you had a high insulin resistance, you know, if you have volatile blood sugar. So there's a lot of stuff you can learn about this. And my experience as a nurse too is if people know whatever illness you have, if I teach the client what it is, what's going to happen, how is it going to feel, what can you expect, people are much smoother sailing, you know, they can accept it. Oh, you told me that my stomach would be rotten on day 5, you know, it's day 6, but that's what I have today. So I can handle it. Stuff like that. So I think that I would actually like to switch the word treatment to education or training. Because that's what it is, really. Teaching people about it.
Good point. All right. So what's one thing that I didn't ask that people really need to know?
What people ask me that they want to know?
Or something that I didn't ask today that you think people really should know.
Oh, that you didn't ask today. No. What people really talk about, I think people are totally obsessed about food. And that's the hard part. They forget that food, you know, switching food, doing a right food plan is only 10% of the whole concept. You need to learn relapse prevention, all the other things I talked about. But people talk food, you know, so you go nuts when you work with these clients if you don't stop them and say, hey, it's not only about the food. You need to look beyond the food. Otherwise, you're going to be obsessing about food is as sick as eating junk food. So you have to stop people from doing that. Otherwise, it drives you nuts, and you know, but it's bad for them. So that's Otherwise, I cannot come up with anything that you should have asked me. I think we covered all the corners of what this is all about. I think we gave people a picture of what this is all about, and of course, you know, that they can contact on my website. There's a whole list of counselors trained in working like that, so they can go there and find that PDF and download it and contact anyone they want over the world and ask for help.
So we've made it easy so we have the kind of a free gift of that screening assessment to kind of help people see if they need that, and then also a little discount on the sugar assessment program to see if
yeah, that's a 3 to 4 hour interview. So yeah, and you know, I have several people trained today that are very skilled in doing sugar. So you know, if somebody wanna get it through this site, you know, I'll take good care of them, or we will take good care of them. I might not do it them all myself, but I'm going to refer to somebody that will. Yeah.
Great.
So they can go to my website.
Yeah, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on my website, bittensaddiction.com, or Instagram, Bitten Jonsson, Facebook, Bitten's Addiction, LinkedIn, Bitten Jonsson. So there are several ways to reach me. The best way, the easiest way or the best way to contact me is actually sending me an email, because, you know, I'm flooded with things on Messenger and, you know, WhatsApp and all that. So it's hard for me to keep track of all those. So, but I will always check my email. Even if I don't answer right away, I will answer. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks again for being with us today. It was wonderful talking to you and learning so much about,
Yeah, thank you for interviewing me, having me on, letting me share about my passion.
Yeah. Thanks. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here, and we'll look for you on the next video tomorrow. Bye.